I accidentally hit randomize. Why is that button even there? Hey, what's up my lovely little Lulos? This is Rob from Gay Guy Plays, and today on Dress to Kill, we're going to be taking a closer look at Atlas Prime. Now, as always, I've prepped a couple different looks for your inspiration. Then we're going to go ahead and try on a couple different armors and Sandanas to see exactly what pairs well. Then, by your requests, I'm going to swap around some helmets and some bodies to see exactly what fits. So, without ado, let's rock on. Now, as always, we're going to start things off with a little bit of a reminder that all of the color codes are going to be found down in the description box below. So no, I will not be moving this camera because it's blocking your view of the colors. The colors are down there. Alright, so let's go ahead and start things off with our iconic rose gold look. Now I know this is going to be very bland. Even blander than my normal kind of colorations, but I think that with Atlas, I wanted to really kind of keep in the rocky theme, and I wanted to use kind of like this dark green, mossy, rocky kind of tone, and then hit him with a really, really deep dark brown to kind of like feel like we've been rolling in the dirt for a bit. I've been really, really into it, mainly because of the fact that I love the texture on this skin. Now, I know that a lot of people straight out of the gate, and even me when I first saw it, was not super duper impressed, and I'm not going to say that this is DE's like pinnacle of best work, but I think it's pretty, for lack of a better term, solid. I really, really love the texturing on this layer here on the thighs. I think that it really incorporates in that rock motif without being blatantly a rock. And that's kind of like one of my biggest issues with the original Atlas skin, and also for like certain Tenogen skins. I don't think like things that are like super duper literal. I think it's just like tasteless, but if you can find a subtle way to incorporate the theme in without being too blunt about it, I think it's absolutely fantastic. Just kind of like the rock plating that's in and around his wrist, same thing goes for around his legs. I think that it's a great way to incorporate the theme in a bit without necessarily throwing it so much in everybody's face. Now, before we go ahead and move into the next look, I did want to do something that's a little bit different because a lot of people had said this. I wanted to actually go ahead and toss him up against Chroma Prime because everybody was like, oh my god, they're like the same thing. And after taking a look at it, I can see where the similarities are, but I don't think that they're as similar as a lot of people say that they are. Number one, the texturing is very different. If you take a look at the Chroma Prime texture, it's very sleek, right? So you can see that there's actually a little bit of shine coming off of the armor in and of itself. But when you come to Atlas, you get some of that shine, but a lot of it is more like matte textured, which I think is a nice, like, subtle kind of like nod to the fact that he's a rock. Yes, he does have the kind of like wrestler's belt going on, but if you notice one thing, it's not necessarily the same because this is like a literal belt. This looks like a literal belt, where Chroma's is kind of like more like a flap. There's like a little flap, and it's kind of like he's got texturing that kind of like angles towards it, but it's not like necessarily sitting on the outside of him as much as it is on Atlas. Then from the rest of it, yeah, there's spikiness, but Chroma is definitely spiky in the dragon version as opposed to Atlas, which is definitely more rocky texture. So I see where people are going with it, but I don't necessarily 100% agree. So let's go ahead and move on to our next look. Alrighty, so I wanted to go ahead and stay with the rock theme, but why not make the rock a glacier? Right? I was just thinking like, let's go ahead and lighten things up. Then as I was playing around with the colors, I was like, he literally looks like a motherfucking iceberg, so let's just go ahead and incorporate some blues and kind of do this icy monochromatic theme. I was totally in love with it as soon as I played around with it, because I did kind of edit around some of the colors, and I'm actually going to show you some of the ways that you can play with the skin a little bit more. But all in all, I wanted to do something a little bit cooler, let's just say, because I feel like when you play around with Atlas, or at least when I play around with Atlas, I get a lot of like magma vibes, because he's very, as they would say, tectonic, and you know, I always think of like lava flows as energy colors, so I wanted to do something on the other end of the spectrum with this one. But the one thing that I will say, and I don't know what it is, but I always like metallic Celine a little bit warm. I was playing around with some silvers, but the metallic color that I actually used is kind of like this gray browny tone, and I kind of like how that contrasts with the iciness of it all. The last thing that I did want to point out, and this is for anybody who wants to, you know, kind of zhuzh around the colors, and if you notice, the screen went dark again. They said that they were looking into this bug, but they have yet to do anything about it. It still exists. So it's been a little bit of a pain for me to do some customizations because I'm like, it keeps getting dark. So I keep having to back out of the screen and going back in to kind of like check my work, as you would say. So what I actually went ahead and clicked on was the tertiary color. And I know that there are a lot of people out there that think that, you know, the colorations I tend to do are a little bit bland, but that's how I like them. However, if you want to kind of do a hybrid where you don't necessarily want to be absolutely crazy, I think that the tertiary color is absolutely perfect for this because it kind of lies underneath all of the other colors, so you can insert a little pop of color into your customization without being too over the top, because I know that some of you guys want to play around with color, but as you can see right here, you can insert it without it necessarily being too garish, right? And that, in all honesty, I almost like to keep the primary and the secondary fairly neutral, then go ahead and go in with the color for the tertiary, because I think that's where you can do some really, really cool looks. I mean, even that I think looks really, really nice. You just need to make sure that it kind of like fits your theme. However, my theme was ice, so we're gonna go ahead and stick with that. I'm gonna, in fact, back all the way out because of that whole darkening and dulling. I don't know if it's a bug, I don't know if it's a feature, whatever it is, it needs to stop. But let's go ahead and try on a couple different armors because I have been playing around with these and I've noticed that there's some that I'm actually surprised that I really, really like. So let's go ahead and knock things out straight out of the gate. You knew that we were going to go in with the Edo Prime. It's just kind of like a no-brainer and it fits very, very well with this armor piece. I don't know why I always scroll down so low for it. But as you can see right there, already looks fantastic. That's not even something that you need to question. However, a new favorite for this that I actually want to go ahead and point out, maybe not with this specific customization because it looks a little bit drab on there, but I really like the Etheria. Look at the way that it kind of like fits in. I love the way that it kind of like dips underneath his chest. I love like the weird mustardy tones you're gonna have to get over because those are just fixed. I don't know why they're there. But especially when you look at the leg bits, I was just like, wow, this fits so freaking well. I really, really like the way that it kind of just, you know, kind of like suits the way that his body is shaped. So with a little bit of a better customization, because, you know, it just really depends on your look. I'm gonna have to swap around some tones on there. The Etheria is one that I definitely highly suggest. Now, interestingly enough, I also tried the Atavist, and it was just not rocking and rolling for me. However, I will say, I know we were making a lot of jokes about, you know, oh, it looks like Chroma Prime, it looks like Chroma Prime, but Chroma Prime's armor kind of looks dope on him. I'm not even gonna lie. I was like, let's just see. And as you can see, it definitely fits the way that he's built. So part of me is kind of like, you know, I don't think he looks exactly like Chroma Prime, but his armor kind of looks like it would work on him. So that is one that I'm gonna go ahead and point out. There's a couple of other pieces that I think work kind of okay on him, kind of like the Tarja set. However, one of the things that I will point out, and this is like the level of anal that I get with all of this kind of stuff. If you notice, there are certain gaps because of the way that he's built. Like right here, the armor kind of like hovers above that area, and that kind of bothers me. And I know that you guys are probably like, Rob, that's not really a big deal. To me, that kind of is a no-go. But one that I will put up here that I don't normally put up for many Warframes is actually the Hulta set. And this is from the Loki Deluxe collection. I kind of really, really like this armor set on him. Again, I would have to tweak around the colors, but I feel like it actually sits really, really nicely on him. And when I was sitting there, I was like, oh, it's not going to look nice on the legs. It's not going to look nice on the legs. It never looks nice on the legs, right? But, you know, like I said, I would have to tweak the colors around a little bit. But it actually looks, it like fits. Look at how it fits on the leg. Like, it's really, really good. So with the right color customization on this armor piece, I actually think that the Hulta can get a nice little revival all up in, you know, Atlas world, which was something that I was not expecting. I did try out a couple different ones as well. I like the Wolf of Saturn 6 one. I feel like it just sits a little bit weird on his chest. Like, you see what I mean? It doesn't sit right, so I get a little bit weirded out by that. The Syrinx actually looked fine and dandy on him when I tried it out. But I think that that's kind of like where my favorites end. Again, I played around with a bunch of different looks and I did not necessarily love them, but you know what I mean? There's some solid go-tos when we take a look at things like the Syrinx, the Imugi, and all of that kind of stuff. Looks fine and dandy. Definitely play around with that, but those would be my armor recommendations. Alrighty, and finally we close out our looks with something that I wanted to step out of the box a little bit on. I knew that one of the colors that I really wanted to use, and I don't know if it's just like the fall vibes hitting me, but I wanted to use kind of like a mustardy yellow, so I went ahead and tossed that on the tertiary. Then I figured, let's go ahead and toss some warm red in there as well. Originally, this red was meant to be more intense, but I keep going back and forth on the colors because I'm not 100% sure. So if you're curious about the primary, I'm actually using the Gamma, and there's like an orangey tone in it. You could probably see it on the screen right now. I just double triple checked to make sure you could see it. But if you want to amp up the color, and this is a tip for anybody using the Gamma saturated and classic palettes, like you can just go into the same color in a different tone, and what will happen is each time you go up a step from Gamma to classic up to saturated, you'll get a more intense tone. So for me, I've been going back and forth on the Gamma version or on the classic version. To be completely honest with you, I still cannot decide. But I'm going to include the Gamma version in the comment section. Or not the comment section, but in the description box. But just know that you can use this color on the classic or saturated to still get the same effect. It's just the varying levels of intensity when it comes to the actual tone of the color. And you guys know I like to keep it a little bit more subtle, so I'm gonna stick with the Gamma one just for demonstration purposes. However, that mustardy color was really the tone that shined to me. So I was like trying that out with purples, trying that out with greens, and to be honest with you guys, you can play around with the primary as much as you want to kind of fit that, but that mustardy tone really was what made the show for me. I don't know what it is, but the fall feels are definitely in. So let's go ahead and try out different Sayandanas now. Now, if I'm going to be honest with you, Alice is a big boy, so I will not look at you sideways if you put on a big Sayandana on him, because I have enjoyed a couple of them. As you guys know, I am a big fan of the, I think it's called the it starts with the D. It is the Dominus Sayandana. I really, really like it. I don't necessarily like it with this color customization. Like, I tweak the colors like I was saying with the armors for the previous skin, but I do like the size on him. I feel like it suits him just fine. I also like the Marlika Sayandana on him, if I can find it. I know I could probably just type this all in, but I'm problematic. What do you expect? It's a very, very similar kind of like size, plus the fact that it's kind of like streamer based. When you're like floating through the air, doing all of your landslides, it kind of like floats behind you as if you were a child's bicycle, and I kind of love that. Of course, I'm always going to point you to some nice back attachments. Like one of my favorite ones, well, you guys already know, I love the Corona Sayandana. I feel like it kind of like echoes a lot of the doming that we have there. I don't feel like it's the 100% perfect match, but there are some other really, really good back attachments that kind of go along with that as well. As always, I'm always going to recommend the Officium because that's my baby. However, I do like, while I don't like the Saturn 6 armor pieces, I do like the Saturn 6 backpack on it. I feel like it almost like seamlessly blends in. It's so good. I also like Hildren's jetpack on him. And I like it a lot because of the fact that he'll landslide into enemies and you can almost picture like the jetpack flare up and like push him towards his enemies. I love that. It's like a rocket punch. Like, who does not like a good rocket punch? So those are some of my suggestions. However, my top favorite of them all, and you have to see it in the side profile, is definitely going to be a super duper old favorite. You know when you make good purchases, like the Daru Sayandana is just a damn good purchase. Like, if you look at it, just look at how the shape just creates that kind of like dome on the side. When you see this kind of coming down from the neck, it just fits so well. It's just one of those pieces that you're like, you know what, it just fits on so many different things. Again, I would tweak the color customization a little bit to go better with it. But even when you hit this side, you see that little dome cave going on. I just love it. I just love the way that it fits with this one. So that is definitely going to be my top recommendations when it comes to Sayandanas. Now, as always, by popular demand, we're going to go ahead and swap a little bit of head. I haven't tried out any of these yet, so I'm not exactly sure what they're going to look like. I like the surprise element. So let's go ahead and try out the R-Hat helmet. I believe this one is by Reiku. And you know what? I'm going to say it's not actually terrible. Is it my go-to helmet specifically for the Prime variant? Probably not, but I don't think that it's a terrible fit at all. I was expecting it to not be that great. However, it's not half bad. Now when we take a look at the Grax helmet, I have to say I'm kind of surprised. All of these are turning out kind of alright, but of course, these are Tenogen, so they're probably going to perform a little bit better, so let's try out the standard helmets. Again, I'm shocked, not bad at all. Atlas might be the king of head. You never know. This is the first time I've been like, oh yeah, that's good. We'll get to the Karst. The Karst can't be good, right? I mean, it's not great, but it's also not as terrible as I thought it was gonna be. He just looks like he's out of like a horror movie. He's like Warframe's version of Pyramid Head, but instead of pyramid, it's just really, really pointy, tall head. I don't know. The Monolith helmet, not bad either. I mean, I guess technically how bad can you fuck up a nub, right? Because his helmet always kind of looks a little nubby. So, I mean, what are you going to do? That's probably the worst of them all. That's the most egregious because it definitely overlays on the net. That one is the Shiroko helmet. So that's going to be a no. And then the Tartarus helmet, also a no. It's weird because it's got this double collar thing that it's trying to do, which I don't think it executes quite well. As always, I'm probably going to stick with the Atlas Prime helmet, but we did get some good substitutes just in case we wanted to go ahead and try swapping those out. Now let's go ahead and mess with the skins real quick. So let's go ahead and do the Grax skin. Now the Grax skin, again, I don't necessarily think works all too well with the helmet, but let's toggle on the Prime details. I think you could make that work. I don't necessarily love how it like lays on the chest. It's a weird like textural difference, but I think that maybe if you tossed on maybe the Grax helmet, maybe it would kind of blend a little bit better. Maybe a customization that blends the two of them. It's not my favorite, but it's also not quite terrible. So let's go ahead and swap out to the Karst skin can't be good. It can't keep going that well, right? It's weird. I'm gonna say no. I kind of hate it, but it's also not the worst thing that we've ever seen here when we swap bodies. Now, as you guys know, you can't actually turn the Prime details on and off of a deluxe skin because the shape is completely different with it. So I want to make sure that you guys are fully aware of that. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the Monolith skin. The Monolith skin with the Prime details on is not bad either, but let's go ahead and just turn it off completely. Looks weird. Looks weird with the helmet, but I mean, with the Prime details on, it's not as bad either. I think that it kind of works. It's not terrible. So let's go ahead and try out just the base Atlas skin. Of course, it's going to be bad. It looks so plain. It looks so plain. It looks like a weird polished stone that you would buy at like some weird arts and crafts store. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave it on the Prime skin itself. I actually think that this skin is really, really nice. Just the base Prime skin on its own is quite fantastic. I know that there have been some other Prime skins before where like, oh, you know, it looks really, really better with a Tenogen underneath it. But no, this one is great. Regardless, let me know how you guys feel about Atlas's skin down below. Do you think it's too similar to Chroma's? Do you enjoy it? Are you out farming it? Did you buy Prime Access? Please, you know, remember, I ain't buying shit. Just putting that out there. Regardless, that's gonna do it for me for now. So as always, leave all your feelings down in the comments below. And love somebody, hurt nobody, and touch your body. I'll see you guys next time. Also, Sprite Zero. Just mixing it up a little bit, you know? Keeping things fresh.